Hello and welcome to another episode of Canadian History Ehx. Before I start, if you want to support the YouTube channel and the podcast, you can. Just go to patreon.com/CanadaEHX. There's tons of different benefits for you to choose from, and every dollar you give helps keep the podcast going. There is some debate over when the first train robbery happened in Canada. While there is some evidence to say it happened in Port Credit, Ontario, when a Great Western Railway train was robbed on November 13th, 1874, other people say that it happened on September 10th, 1904, by a man named Bill Miner near Mission, British Columbia. I'm going to look at both. Let's look at the Port Credit robbery first. Technically, the first train robbery in Canadian history. It was on November 13th, 1874, when the American Express Special was running along the Great Western Railway, leaving Hamilton Railway Station at 5 p.m., arriving on time in Port Credit. When it arrived, things seemed fine until it was discovered that $150,000 had been stolen and the two employees were bound and gagged. According to the employees, the robbers had worn white smocks over their entire bodies with holes cut in the eyes, much in the same way that the Ku Klux Klan dresses. One man came to the rear door of the baggage and express cart, while four other men arrived through the front door. Both the employees were attacked, thrown to the ground, and tied up. According to the newspaper accounts, the thieves took everything that they could see after they opened the safe with the key taken from an employee. An investigation was conducted, and it was found that the bell rope between the engine and the baggage car had been cut, preventing any alarm from ringing. When questioned, the two employees gave differing accounts of the escape of the robbers. One said they had jumped off the train as it slowed down outside Toronto, while the other employee said they jumped off near Stanley Barracks at the current CNE grounds. The robbers were never caught, despite a thorough investigation. All that was known was that the robbers had cut the bell rope alarm when the train was stopped at Hamilton, and that the robbers entered the train unseen, robbed it, and then exited it. The money and valuables were never found either. Now for the 1904 robbery, which is much more famous and often referred to as the first train robbery in Canadian history, even though it wasn't. To address the Mission train robbery, we first need to look at a man by the name of Bill Miner. Miner was born in Michigan on December 27, 1846 as Ezra Allen Miner. He went by Bill for his entire life as he never liked his birth name. And by 1866, at the age of 20, he was arrested for the first time. He would commit various robberies throughout the United States and is credited with being the person to say, "Put your hands up." And after spending his third time in prison, he moved to British Columbia and took on the name of George Edwards, passing himself off as a semi-retired rancher. He would live near Kamloops while recruiting a crew that included Thomas Shorty Dunn for another train robbery. Miner would arrive in Mission in early September and took up residence near where the Mission Raceway is located today, where he could watch the coming and goings of the trains. On September 10, 1904, Miner and his men boarded a train at a water tank near Mission. After gaining control of the train, they made the engineers separate the locomotive, baggage car, and two mail cars from the rest of the train. Miner's crew consisted of himself, Shorty Dunn, and Louis Colquhoun. After the robbery, Miner was seen as an outlaw hero for robbing the Canadian Pacific Railway, and he was known as the Gentleman Bandit for his polite manners during holdups. During the holdup, Miner got away with $6,000 in gold dust, $900 in currency, and $50,000 in U.S. bonds. All in all, this amounted to $1.3 million in today's funds. The CPR in both the federal and provincial governments offered $11,500 in rewards for the apprehension of the robbers, but they had no luck. As for Miner, he lived for a year and a half near Kamloops under the guise of being a quiet old gentleman, and he was popular with the locals, and no one ever suspected him of being a criminal. Miner would eventually be caught after a train robbery near Kamloops on May 8, 1906, when he had stolen $15 and a bottle of kidney pills after choosing the wrong car on the train. He would eventually be caught after a manhunt, the largest in British Columbia history to that point. The manhunt included provincial police, the Royal Northwest Mounted Police, cowboys, Indigenous trackers, bloodhounds, and even American detectives. After he was caught, he would serve time in a British Columbia prison before escaping in 1907. Prime Minister Wilfrid Laurier would state his anger that, in his words, a dangerous criminal thinking to play with impunity in this country the pranks he'd been playing on the other side of the line had been allowed to escape from the penitentiary. While the CPR and the government hated him, he was well liked by regular folk. One popular joke at the time was, "Bill Miner's not so bad. He only robs the CPR once every 2 years. The CPR robs us all every day." He would eventually make his way back to the United States, and he would die in 1913 after drinking brackish water after an escape attempt from another prison. As for the other members of the crew, Shorty Dunn would serve a life sentence before drowning in a lake near Kamloops, while Louis Colquhoun died in a prison from tuberculosis. I hope you enjoyed that look at the first 2 train robberies in Canadian history, and if you did, please give a like and review. You can reach me at craig@canadaehx.com. You can visit my website where I have hundreds of articles on Canada's history at canadaehx.com. You can subscribe to this show, and you can subscribe to my podcast, Canadian History Ehx, which is available on all podcasting networks. And again, you become a patron and support the podcast for as little as $3 a month, like these wonderful people have. Thanks, we'll see you again next time.